Don't you have a family? Don't you have a wife?
My wife? My wife? I'm not allowed to kill my wife.
Number 10, The Exorcist, Believer. Demons, ghouls, and monsters have nothing on the scariest thing of all, bad reboots. It's all the worst here because Believer isn't just a lousy horror film, it's a lousy Exorcist film. Not even the highly marketed returns of Ellen Burstyn and Linda Blair can make this flimsy narrative work. Combined with overblown special effects and empty jump scares, Believer left fans of the original wondering how things got so off base.
We need to try something else, something different, something new.
Even more chilling, this movie was supposed to kickstart a whole new trilogy of Exorcist films, but ironically, the poor audience feedback didn't inspire much faith in Believer's future on the big screen. Number 9, the return of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. While Leatherface and his signature chainsaw are always a treat, this time the blood-spurting mayhem was peppered with just as many meta quips and clever gags.
Give her a kiss. How could I hurt a pretty face like this? But then, I am in the mood for love.
Unfortunately, the return of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre only hits some of its punchlines, and they're drowned out in fake blood anyway.
There is nothing to fear but fear itself.
The rest of the runtime is full of cult-like imagery, strange acting choices, and a lot of throat-tearing screams. Altogether, it makes for a distinctly off-kilter movie-going experience, a memorable one, but off-kilter nonetheless. It's worth a watch to see a young Renee Zellweger and Matthew McConaughey pay their dues, but if you're hoping for a real Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, you're better off looking elsewhere. Number 8, Guinea Pig 2, Flower of Flesh and Blood. Do not let your guard down just because this movie has guinea pig in the title. On the contrary, Flower of Flesh and Blood is a ruthlessly brutal endurance test at the multiplex. Let's just say you'll want to watch it with a bath bucket nearby.
見ろ。これがお前の運命だ。
Chronicling a woman's kidnapping and subsequent torture, the practical effects were so convincing, it spawned an investigation to determine whether the footage was fictional or not. This is after the movie was deemed too graphic for the public and banned from certain video stores. Guinea Pig 2 goes so far past the line, it's not even a movie anymore. It's a straight-up urban legend. Number 7, The Fly 2. As annoying and inconsequential as an actual gnat, this follow-up to David Cronenberg's sci-fi calling card is the epitome of what's wrong with cash grab sequels.
I had to see you, Beth. Do you want me to go?
For all of the original's gory set pieces, it managed to ground the story with compelling character drama or engaging themes. In comparison, The Fly 2 is all body horror all the time, and not in a good way. By unceremoniously abandoning the legacy characters, it's obvious this gross-out gore fest was only made to milk the franchise's legacy. The Fly 2 certainly has some squirm-inducing moments, but as a sequel to one of the best monster movies ever made, we expected fewer prosthetics and much more charm. Number 6, The Descent Part II. Fittingly, The Descent is a good way to describe the quality of this franchise. The first film was a lean, mean, spelunking adventure full of equal parts shrieks and guts. This ill-advised follow-up, however, stretches that concept until it completely snaps. Descent Part II suffers from the cardinal sin of bad sequels, which is doing the same thing, just worse. It's the same leading lady, same setup, same monsters, everything. But they fail to realise that throwing more blood at the screen does not make for a strong story. Instead of leaving good enough alone, The Descent is now remembered as a disappointing franchise rather than a fantastic standalone. Number 5, Hostel Part II. To be fair, this franchise isn't exactly known for being all sunshine and butterflies, but even for the horror genre, Hostel Part II is something else. Picking up the same plot threads of its predecessor, it follows the exploits of a few unwitting tourists who find themselves in a glorified slaughterhouse. In other words, it's a 90-minute excuse to film some of the most gruesome scenes in cinematic history. Horror sequels always amp up the body count, but Hostel Part II throws so much graphic material at the screen, it becomes genuinely difficult to sit through.
Don't you have a family? Don't you have a wife?
My wife? My wife? I'm not allowed to kill my wife.
This is one vacation that should have stopped after the first leg. Number 4, The Final Destination. Not to be confused with the first film, Final Destination, this is strictly The Final Destination, which is a pretty good metaphor for how eye-rolling this movie is. It's billed as the last in the franchise, and that much is made very clear with the increasingly zany death scenes. We're talking flying tyres, pool pumps, head explosions, and more. Final Destination has always thrived on its silly, Rube Goldberg-like assassinations, but the intricacies aren't what made it scary. It was the idea that even the most mundane objects could take you out.
I'm so sorry.
The Final Destination leans so much into absurdity, it misses out on what made the series stand out in the first place. Number 3, Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers. Cults, babies, curses. Is this a Halloween movie or what? Michael Myers' MO is about as straightforward as you can get. He's a guy in a mask who terrifies babysitters with a butcher knife. Enough said. Despite that, Halloween spends its entire 6th installment retconning its iconic villain with a bunch of needlessly boring lore. You can barely call it a slasher film anymore. In fact, the movie spends so much time on Myers' connection to an old druid curse, it may as well be from a different franchise altogether. Though we doubt any other series wants it, considering the Curse of Michael Myers just isn't very good, period.
Little Mikey Myers that lived across the street. And that's when the voice came. The night he murdered his sister.
Number 2, Alien 3. Shooting without a finished script never goes well. If you need convincing, just watch Alien 3. That is, assuming you can make it through without yawning or throwing your remote at the screen. As early as the opening act, the movie makes an irrevocable misstep by killing off most of Alien 2's surviving cast off-screen, because who needs story integrity when you have a release date to meet? From there, Alien 3 insults its audience with an overabundance of violence and a drought of meaningful character growth.
It's a long, sad story. And more than a little melodramatic.
Try me.
If you insist.
It's a good thing this supposed ending didn't pan out. Alien 3 isn't the goodbye anyone on screen or in the audience deserved. Number 1. Saw 3. Most horror sequels play by the rule that bigger is better. Saw took that to heart and amped up its third trek to theatres with untold amounts of gore, violence, and disturbing imagery.
You could try and take the collar off yourself. But that could be tricky. Slightest knock in the wrong place could trigger it. I should know.
The franchise's gnarly impulses peaked here, and for the sake of our eyes, that's a good thing. Even for an R-rated film, Saw 3 pushes the absolute limit of what a mainstream movie can get away with. Then, just when you think it can't get any grislier, Jigsaw brings out the rack. Need we say any more? Saw 3 is all kinds of grotesque, to the point it's almost gratuitous. Jigsaw really outdid himself with this one, that's for sure.
Which is it, Jeff? Come on. Yes or no?
Yes. What do you want?
What horror follow-up do you think jumped the shark? Let us know in the comments below. Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from Watch Mojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.